Welcome back to MacBreak Studio. Mark, it's been a while since we've done some MacBreaks.
Yeah, sorry guys, we've been away. We've been busy.
Very busy. Yeah. Apple just released a new update, as you may or may not be aware.
Final Cut, Motion, and Compressor, all big updates.
Right, .2 updates.
.2, full all the way to .2, yeah.
Right, so there's a lot of great feature enhancements in this release. In particular, we have a beautiful new 3D text engine.
Yeah, I'm most excited about that. 3D text in both Final Cut and Motion, and it's just stunning, like you say. I mean,
the quality is amazing. I'd put it up against anything I see on network television or feature film. That's quality of these 3D titles.
And not only that, it's extremely deep. It's also easy to use, and the performance is really shocking, given that you're dealing with 3D and lights and all kind of stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
So let's stop talking and get in and start showing. Oh, and by the way, we should say we've got full tutorials that explain exactly what all these new features are in Final Cut, in Motion, and Compressor. So we're going to give you a little overview here, but you want to check those out at rebeltraining.com.
Right. So I say let's just get into it.
Yeah.
I'll begin by introducing you to Final Cut Pro 10's simple yet powerful 3D title interface. Here's a shot of the Golden Gate Bridge. I want to create a 3D title that matches its perspective, lighting, and color. I'll select the clip and press X to set a range, then press Ctrl-T to add a basic 2D title. In the inspector, I'll type out San Francisco and change the font and set the text size to 200. There's a new option labeled 3D text. To convert the 2D text to 3D, just enable it by clicking this checkbox. Instantly, the text appears with depth and shadow. Move your mouse pointer over the text, then click once on it to reveal the on-screen controls. You can work with your text in a true 3D environment, manipulating the title's rotation and movement along separate X, Y, and Z planes. I'll position the text below the bridge, then rotate it to match the bridge perspective. I'll bring the text closer a bit by dragging on the Z position arrow. The look of your 3D text is controlled in the inspector by using three separate but related panels: 3D text, lighting, and material. Let's change the material that's applied to the text. A material can be comprised of a single substance, like plastic, wood, or metal, but can also include a paint layer or a finish like enamel. In this case, a single plastic substance is applied to the text. I'll choose a different material by clicking the Material button, then locate the Metal category, and choose Brushed Metal. In the area below, you can see what specific layers are applied to the text that make up the brushed metal material. In this case, there's a metal substance whose current type is set for aluminum, and a brushed finish applied on top of that. In order to get a closer look at the changes I'm about to make, I'll zoom in a bit. Let's change the finish to enamel. Now our aluminum text has a highly reflective enamel surface applied to it. What would the text look like with a different metal applied? Using the Type menu in the Substance section, I'll choose gold. Very nice, but I don't think it's right for this scene. Let's try copper. And finally, let's take a look at brass. What would a polished brass look like? I'll choose Polish from the Finish menu. It's crazy how quick and simple it is to make changes to your text and have those changes instantly reflected in the viewer. Let's change the light direction applied to the title. In the Lighting section, click the pop-up next to Lighting Style to reveal a menu of lighting options. Choose Diagonal Right, and Light now emulates a scene lighting. Let's reveal the 3D text section and change the depth of the text. I'll set this to 25. I'll rotate the text so you can see that this gorgeous metal material is being applied to all surfaces of the text, not just the front side. Notice how the material interacts with the light to produce highly detailed specular highlights and shadows. You can also easily change how reflective the material is. In the inspector, reduce the shininess amount. Now the brass is more of a matte finish, but still maintains its very distinctive brass look. Let's go back the other direction and increase the shininess to 100%. Zooming in a bit more, you'll be able to see the environment reflected by the letters. The question is, what environment is the material reflecting? In the lighting section, locate Environment, then reveal some more options by clicking on the disclosure triangle. To change the environment, click the menu next to Type. A menu of images appears. Each of these images can be selected to create a different environment map for your 3D title, and each of them will produce radically different results. No other control has more impact on the look of your 3D titles than the environment you have selected. At any point along the process, you can save your work as a style preset that you can apply to any title you're working on in the future. At the top of the inspector, locate the Styles menu. Then click it to reveal some options. Choose Save All Format and Appearance Attributes. I'll name this style SF Shiny Brass and click Save. Currently, the title is static. Let's replace this one with one of the new 3D animated presets. In the Titles browser, I'll locate the Tumble 3D and drop it onto the title to replace it. I'll then select the title and loop playback. Now I'll apply the save style. The title does an animated build-in, and in the inspector, I can change many of the animation parameters to achieve different looks. Final Cut Pro's real-time engine, in concert with Apple hardware, does an amazing job of playing back your 3D title creations without having to render. Apple made some changes to how color correction is applied to your clips in Final Cut Pro 10.2. They're not huge changes, but they will affect your workflow in some important ways. Let's take a look. I'll move the playhead over the next clip of Jocelyn. Subjectively, she looks correctly exposed, but the white shutters in the background are a bit too intense, drawing our eyes away from the subject. I'm not one for judging a shot entirely subjectively, so let's take a look at how the shot appears in the scopes. Press Command 7 to bring up the scopes window. A new addition to Final Cut Pro is the ability to display video scopes in different layouts. Click the View menu and a palette of scopes layouts appear. For example, if you want to see all your scopes laid out as a quadrant, select this button. The waveform, histogram, vector scope, and RGB parade scopes will all appear in a single window. Because I'm primarily interested in improving the shot's exposure in the bright areas of the frame, I want a layout that displays only the histogram and waveform monitor. I'll select the 2-up option from the palette. If these scopes are not the ones you want displayed in each pane, you can change them. I want the waveform monitor to appear on the left side, so I'll click the arrow next to the gear icon, then choose this option from the menu. I'll do the same for the right pane, this time choosing the histogram. In Final Cut Pro 10.2, color correction is now added as an effect and behaves like any other effect you add to your clips. There's a certain advantage to this, as you'll see in a moment. Press Command 5 to open the effects browser, then click the color category. To apply color correction to a clip, drag and drop the thumbnail onto a clip or a group of clips. You can also select a clip or group of clips and double-click the thumbnail. There's another key advantage of having color correction applied as an effect. You can control the effect processing order. I'll drop this black and white effect onto the clip, then click the color swatch in the inspector and choose white. Doing this will blow out the background, and in the scopes, no detail in the shutters is represented. Notice the white values are now above 100%. Click the Show Corrections button to open the color board. I'll drag the highlights exposure control downward until the highlights are at or below 100% in the scopes. I've just made the image broadcast legal, but I've also brought back all the shutter detail. What I'm really after creatively is the blown out background while keeping the highlight levels below 100% in order to meet broadcast standards. The only way to achieve this is to change the effect processing order. I'll reset the exposure pane, then return to the main inspector. I'll drag the color correction effect below the black and white effect. In terms of signal processing, the black and white effect is now applied before the color correction effect. Now let's jump back into the color board, then reduce the highlights until the whites are at 90% in the scopes. As you can see, I've made the highlights broadcast safe, but I've also maintained the blown out look I'm after. Any effects you create can now be saved as a preset that can be easily categorized and applied to any clip in any project. To create a preset, click the Save as Effects preset button. You'll be prompted to name the effect. I'll name this effect High Con Black and White. In the Attributes list, you can control which effects are saved. Currently, both the black and white and color correction effects are selected. When the effects preset is saved and later applied, both effects will be applied to your clips in the order listed, and will also include any keyframes, assuming one or both effects included them prior to saving the preset. If you're working on a particular job, you might want to create an effects category by job, client name, or other meaningful group. From the Category pop-up menu, choose New Category, then give your category a name. I'll name this one San Diego Short Film, then click Create, then click Save. In the effects browser, the category you just created appears in the list. I'll move my playhead over the next clip of Jocelyn, then skim over my saved effect to see a preview. To apply it, drag it onto the target clip or clips. In the inspector, the effect is displayed with the same attributes as the clip it was created from. There are 5 new mask effects, all of which have different purposes and can be applied to any clip or group of clips in the standard way you apply any effect, either by dragging and dropping onto a clip or making a selection and double-clicking the effect's thumbnail. I'll move my playhead over this clip of the ghostly girl. I want to isolate her from her background, so I can color correct the background separately. Currently, the background is disabled, so we can see the effect of our mask adjustments. To apply the draw mask, I'll drag it onto the top clip, then begin adding control points following the outline of her body. By clicking and holding with your mouse, you can add Bezier control points that include tangent handles for creating curves. I'll keep clicking around her until I've created a closed shape. If you need additional control points, double-click the mask boundary. At any point, I can right-click on a control point to convert it from linear to smooth or vice versa. I'll re-enable the bottom clip, then press Command-C to open the color board, then reduce the exposure in the mids and highlights. I'll also give the scene a cold blue look by adjusting the global color control. Often when using standard effects, you'll find a mask comes in handy for limiting the effect to areas within the frame. In the effects browser, choose any effect and drop it onto the clip. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use this crosshatch effect. At first glance, it appears there's nothing new about this effect until you move your mouse pointer over the effect's name bar. A mask icon appears that when clicked on reveals some mask options. There are 2 basic mask types you can apply to any effect, a shape mask or a color mask. Let's start by adding a shape mask. As clearly seen in the viewer, a shape mask limits the effect to the area within the mask boundary. If you wanted to have the effect applied outside the mask, click the mask button and choose Invert Masks. When a mask is applied, it appears as a bar at the bottom of the effect. By default, the mask is displayed with on-screen controls, which can be toggled on or off by clicking this button. Adjust the mask shape by dragging the green control points and the inner control point to change its orientation. If you prefer more of a rectangle shape than a square, drag the shape control handle. New in this update is the ability to create a mask with squared off corners. And of course, you can drag the mask where you want it by clicking and dragging the center control point. The outer boundary controls the mask feathering. The further you drag outward, the softer the mask edge will be, and vice versa. Let's make the shape an oval that roughly approximates the shape of the tree, then move it into place. Let's bring the feathering down a bit so it doesn't extend too far into the background. You can also add more than one mask to a clip or group of clips. Click the Apply Mask button to add another shape mask. The newly applied mask appears over the first one in the viewer. Additionally, we see a second shape mask appear below the first shape mask in the inspector. Masks, like effects, have a visual priority determined by the mask stacking order. Masks that appear at the bottom of the list are applied on top of any mask previously applied. I'll shape the selected mask into a rectangle and place it over the lower half of the frame where the vineyard meets the mountain range. To see how the masks are combined to limit the effect, click the View Masks button. The white pixels are the areas where the effect is applied. The black pixel areas remain unaffected. Masks are applied from the bottom up in the final composite. In this example, the vineyard mask at the bottom of the frame is being added to the tree mask directly above it in the stacking order. If we choose the subtract blend mode, because the vineyard mask has a higher priority than the tree mask, every pixel where it overlaps the tree mask will be removed from the mask. Let's change the stacking order by dragging the vineyard mask above the tree mask, then subtracting the pixels from the tree mask. This time, the tree pixels are removed from the mask everywhere the mask overlaps the vineyard mask. Having the ability to control the stacking order of your masks gives you a ton of creative flexibility when applying effects, especially when used for color correction.
While there are several new features in Motion 5.2, the biggest one by far in my mind is 3D text. And while 3D text exists in both Motion and Final Cut Pro X, I'm going to focus here on the differences in Motion, the additional features you can take advantage of. I have some 3D text created and selected here in the layers list. And in the text inspector, I have the new Appearance tab selected. And here we can see all of the parameters that you just saw in Final Cut Pro X. 3D text parameters, lighting parameters, and materials parameters. These are identical to what's in Final Cut. They're all available in Final Cut. So you may wonder, well, what can I do in Motion that I can't already do in Final Cut? There's actually a lot. For example, you can create your own custom text animations in Motion that are not necessarily available in Final Cut, because you can animate any way you want. All of the 2D text animation features that are available in Motion apply to 3D text. And here's a few examples of things you can do by animating 3D text in Motion. Another example is the ability to put text on a path in Motion. Text on a path in Motion works with 3D text just as well with 2D text. In fact, even better, because you get to see all the parts of the text as they reflect light and reflect the environment. Another thing you can do in Motion is to animate individual glyphs rather than the entire text object. In Motion, all the parameters that are available in the Appearance tab are keyframeable, which they're not in Final Cut Pro X. So that opens up many more options for creating animation by animating the parameters in the 3D text and lighting sections. So for example, here I've keyframed the environmental rotation to create a light pass that moves across the text. Those are all fantastic, but one of the biggest deals in Motion is the ability to integrate 3D text into a full 3D scene. So instead of using the built-in lights that come with 3D text, you can use motion lights. And by doing so, you can add your own lights to the scene, modify them, and have them create shadows. Here I've got several different lights creating shadows in multiple directions. And I'll also turn on a background to match. And now we have a scene with multiple motion lights that can be adjusted, they can be colored, they can be animated, interacting with 3D text. We can even take this a step further by turning on reflections for the floor. Because Motion is already a 3D enabled application, you can even track 3D text into a video clip. Here's an example where I've tracked some text into a video clip and added shadows to make it look like it's anchored into the scene. So all of Motion's capabilities, its animation capabilities, cameras, lights, shadows, reflections, tracking, all apply to the 3D features that are available in both Final Cut and Motion. And of course, anything you make in Motion can be published as a title to Final Cut Pro X to be available in Final Cut. So all these additional features and the ability to use Motion to create titles to publish for Final Cut Pro X make it an indispensable tool for working with 3D text.
For many filmmakers, the goal is to distribute and sell their work online. Compressor now makes it possible to deliver video content to the iTunes Store. First, you must have a completed feature film, documentary, or television series that you have rights and intentions to sell via digital distribution. Second, you've entered into an agreement with one of the Apple certified aggregators and delivery partners for your project who will facilitate the provisioning, upload, and management of the project within iTunes. You'll begin by adding your movie to the batch window. Under the File menu, choose New iTunes Store Package. Compressor creates a new type of job in the batch area, comprised of fields for the various assets included in an iTunes package. In the inspector, you'll need to provide a vendor ID supplied by your delivery partner. Click Choose to set the location Compressor will save the exported iTunes package upon completion. Next, you'll add closed caption files, subtitles, and alternate audio files, if those exist for the project. If subtitles are included, select the asset and assign the properties in the inspector. For example, these are Spanish for Latin America as a full translation. You can preview both closed captions and subtitles in the preview area. For example, with the caption selected in the batch area, click the Closed Captions button in the preview. The captions will render on screen during playback.
The passion I have for what I do with H5 Productions and flying this aircraft.
The last step is to add chapter markers, as they'll help with the audience's navigation of the rented or purchased movie, much in the same way that DVD chapter markers work. When all the assets are loaded, all the metadata properly inputted and assigned, and all the chapter markers placed with their associated images, it's time to start the batch. So the question of whether Apple's actually interested in the pro community could be completely answered by this release.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. There's some great new features with 3D text, with all the mask options, the color correction changes, the compressor iTunes Store submission. It's just a great set of new features.
It's fantastic. And we are going to do a lot more MacBreaks in the ensuing weeks. We just kind of touched the surface to kind of give you an overview of what's possible, but we're going to dive deep into the features of the latest update in the next few weeks.
Absolutely, and so please stay tuned for that. Check out the full tutorials at rippletraining.com and our plugins. We've got some amazing 3D text plugins that take advantage of all this power that you can really do some great stuff with. And we'll talk about some of that stuff on MacBreak as well.
That's right. So make sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and thank you for watching another episode of MacBreak Studio. We'll see you next time.